Welcome to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast, presented by Mark Mitchell, a sales and marketing consultant who specializes in helping building materials companies overcome difficult sales problems. Mark is the author of the book Building Materials Channel Marketing and a frequent speaker at industry events.
Hello, this is Mark Mitchell from Whizard Strategy. Today I want to talk about the 4 biggest challenges facing building material companies that I learned about or had validated at my most recent Whizard Summit. So when I'm doing the Whizard Summit, I'm not just a teacher, but I'm also a student. I show up at each event ready to share my knowledge, but I also learn a lot from the companies who attend. So the majority of the time I learn from these events are the biggest challenges that they're currently facing. And these challenges today fall into 4 categories. One is challenges I was already aware of, which simply validates my thinking. Secondly, challenges I was not aware of, which educate me. Third, challenges my attendees are aware of but don't know how to deal with. And fourth, challenges my attendees don't see, but it is so obvious to me I can barely understand how they don't recognize them. Some of the companies that attend the summit also surprise me by being ahead of their competitors in some unexpected areas. Let me start with where I was most pleasantly surprised, and then we'll dig into those challenges everyone is facing. A pleasant surprise is that building material companies are taking action. For over a year, I've been advising building material companies about the growth of off-site construction. This major development is going to bring huge changes to the way they do business, and it's going to bring them very quickly. When I write about this, or the company, for example, Katera, I get more interest and comments than when I write about any other subject. But still, I felt that most building material companies don't recognize how important this is to their future. I was expecting the attendees to tell me they were aware of these coming changes and were starting to think about them. But because business is so good today, they really haven't put serious thought into it and certainly have no concrete action plan. So I might have underestimated a number of these companies that attended the Whizard Summit. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of the attendees who not only recognize how the boom in offsite construction will change their business, but they have already taken action by meeting with companies like Katera or some of the other major companies leading this change, and figuring out what's going on, how's this going to affect us, and what we can do. The next area was the challenges that I was already aware of. And one of the things that did not surprise me was the shrinking importance of product differentiation. What differentiates one product from another and makes one a little better than the other just doesn't matter all that much to customers these days. I have felt that, and that was played back to me by many of the attendees at the Whizard Summit. They tell me, the manufacturers, customers see a difference between a product like a house wrap and an alternative like the zip system, but they don't see much of a difference between one house wrap and another. New customers are also less likely to see the value in a building material company's brand name. So what do they care about? You might think it's an expected level of performance and a competitive price, but your customers today, to them, that's just table stakes. The deciding factor, the one that's becoming more important, is how easy it is to deal with your company. The attendees were very aware of this shift and the rising level of customer dissatisfaction when customers are dealing with their companies. And so you need to really be aware of the competitive advantage of customer service. The next area of change was the challenges that I was not aware of that I became aware of from the attendees. And it may seem like a small one, but one of the challenges I learned about was social media that was very surprising to me. I was already aware that building material companies have a hard time getting their salespeople to use social media. I'm not the only one who noticed that trend. Builders, architects, and other customers are contacting manufacturers to ask why their sales reps aren't following, liking, or commenting on their social media pages. Even with direct requests like these, sales reps are still reluctant to get on social media and engage with their customers. But what I didn't realize is that some companies are directing their employees not to do anything on social media. This happens when their legal departments are concerned if the company or their employees are deposed, the opposing legal team will use anything they can find on social media against them. I get that to some extent I can understand not wanting employees to make product claims online. What I don't understand is why they can't even go on LinkedIn or Facebook and wish a customer a happy birthday or congratulate them on a promotion. Companies who don't face these restrictions can interact with their customers more directly, and their customers are noticing the difference it makes. That gives them a real competitive advantage over their more cautious competitors. So if you're a company that doesn't have a lot of restrictions on what you can do on social media, I'm telling you, do more, and you will be amazed at what a difference it makes. Another challenge that customers are aware of but don't know how to deal with, and that is the industry has sped up and everyone is aware of this. The amount of change and the speed that is coming are unprecedented. New products are being accepted at a much faster rate than ever before. Some of these new products can replace or eliminate the need for your product. What happened to glass fiber bat insulation? Along comes this stuff called spray foam. Traditional methods of sourcing and distribution are being changed to improve efficiency and eliminate unnecessary costs. But there are many players in this area, and it's difficult to know who's going to win and who you should align yourself with. Back to this idea about the pace of change and being aware of it and being out in front of it. And then the final type of challenge was the one that building material companies don't see, but seems so obvious to me. And when I talk to most building material companies about their sales and marketing, and as I got this reaffirmed by the attendees, you think that you've stepped into the past when you talk about sales and marketing. So what it takes to be a successful field salesperson today is very different than when it was a lot of these companies just a few years ago. Most companies, however, haven't updated the way they make sales. They still have a traditional view of field sales, and as a result, they're getting lower and lower returns from field sales every year. It's the same with their marketing. Companies are still clinging to traditional marketing methods, even though they're costlier, less effective, and much more difficult to track and measure than new approaches to marketing, such as the use of more online and digital approaches. I see that building material startups have the right idea. They're coming into the market with a clean slate. They don't have any, we have always gone to this trade show, we've always printed this catalog. They start with a clean slate, and they develop and use the most effective sales and marketing strategies that work best because they're not held back by their legacy or past historical efforts. So when you think about, this is just another big area of change that I saw then this is the one where companies still, to me, don't quite recognize it, this amount of change. So every Whizard Summit gives me a bird's eye view of the building materials industry. Hearing directly from so many companies shows me exactly what challenges they're facing, what is going to disrupt the way they do business, and how they're getting ready or they're not getting ready to face these challenges. So one of the biggest challenges these days has to do with the way building material companies think about the future. A lot of companies still act like they have time to wait for the coming changes in the industry. They don't need to update their digital marketing strategy or throw out their old customer relations playbook just yet. What they don't realize is the future ain't what it used to be. The future used to be slow and distant. Companies were able to take their time. They could wait a few years before reacting to the changes they saw coming. Now the future is coming at us fast. Changes are happening so quickly that the whole industry is shifting right before your eyes. So dealing with the future can be low on a building material company's to-do list. In my experience, it is low. But if you're not taking steps to adapt to coming changes today, you're waiting too long and you risk getting left behind. So it's my hope that more building material companies are staying one step ahead of these changes and not get left behind. Because the challenge we also face today is business is pretty good for most building material companies. So they're doing everything they can just to keep up with business as is today, so they aren't devoting time or attention or resources to think about what is business going to be like in a year or 2 or 3? How are they going to deal with the next recession or downturn, which will come, and it will be different than any one in the past. And the people who get through it the best, who maybe turn it to their advantage, have prepared for it. And when you come out of the recession, the next downturn, it's going to be very different than coming out of it in the past. So these are all big reasons to pay attention to changes in the market and to decide whether or not you're going to be a proactive leader out in front, or you are going to wait until you lose a customer or some other major change happens that forces you to wake up and start to take action. So that was the one area of the 4 big challenges that I learned about or were reinforced to me at the most recent Whizard Summit, was this continuing ignorance or willingness to ignore the change that's coming at building material companies. So I hope this has been helpful to give you some things to think about. Also to see about how you are doing compared to the Whizard Summit attendees, the areas that they are taking action and moving forward, and some of the areas where they're stuck in the past, and some of the areas where they don't know what to do. In fact, it would be a great idea to come to one of my future Whizard Summits if this interested you at all. I would love to, one, share my knowledge with you and help you solve your problems, as well as learn from what's happening in your market. So until next time, thanks for listening in.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Mark Mitchell on building materials, sales, and marketing. We hope he gave you some fresh perspectives on how to grow your sales, and will listen to future episodes.